On this Community Wednesday, we'll be breaking down a long-range Holger build made for solos. When I saw this build, I saw that it was extremely close to my old solos build that also used a 30 round magazine, and it's still extremely close to the build I showed you guys last week. In this video, we'll be comparing this build to 3 other builds. One that I used to run for solos, one that I sometimes run when I'm feeling a little bit more aggressive, and the one that I normally run as a long-range weapon. So let's get into the build. The build consists of the monolithic suppressor, the VLK 3.0, the FSS Ranger, the Commando foregrip, and the 30 round mags. The main difference between our builds is that he uses the FSS Ranger while I use the tac laser. This gives you better stability but reduces your ADS strafe, and the tac laser gives you better ADS and stability, but it has a visible laser, which is not very good for close quarters engagements. Another slight difference between our builds is that he uses the VLK instead of the integrated 4x optic. The VLK and the integrated 4x have about the same ADS and the same recoil reduction, so it's really preferential based on whether you want more zoom or less zoom. If you're on PC and playing on high FOV like me, a VLK isn't enough for those extremely long ranges. To put this into perspective, when you look at a target at 56 meters with the VLK, this is the exact same size as you see a target with the integral 4x at 100 meters. So the integral 4x almost doubles its effective range when it comes to zoom. But for the sake of this video, I'll be using my old solos build with the tac laser and 30 round mag, and I'll be swapping out my integrated 4x for the VLK, just to make sure there's only a 1 attachment difference. With that out of the way, let's get into the stats, starting with mobility. Its ADS time is 270 milliseconds, which kind of surprised me because this is 30 milliseconds away from my normal build and 30 milliseconds away from my old solo build. So it's in the middle, but let's move on. Its reload time from empty is 3.2 seconds and its reload add time is 2.45. This is a whole second faster than the 100 round mag, so it's up to you to know if it's worth it or not. Its mag cap, of course, is 30. In its movement and sprint speeds, you can see that the 30 round magazine's mobility buff actually offsets the Commando foregrip's mobility debuff. And moving on to ADS strafe, you can see that both 30 round magazine builds are better than the 100 round with and without the Commando foregrip. However, you can see that the FSS Ranger build has a slightly lower strafe speed than the one with the tac laser, and the sprint out times are extremely great, much better than the 100 round versions. Now for its stability. 0.8T is pretty great, but with the tac laser, you can see that it's actually a little bit worse at 1T. So the FSS Ranger does provide more stability than the tac laser. And for velocity and rate of fire, they're all the same. So in the end, the Ranger build gets a mobility score of 36. Its recoil is extremely easy to control, and just like last week, it gets a recoil score of 48. I won't be breaking down the damage section like I did last week, since you can just watch that video if you're actually interested. But in summary, up close, it isn't the most competitive weapon, but at range, it actually can compete and beat many long-range ARs. So it gets a damage score of 35. And when we put all the numbers together, we get a final score of 119. Let's see how it compares to the other builds. If we take a look at all the recoil patterns, we can see that the 2 solo builds are actually extremely similar. Just mind that random stability movement does affect your recoil pattern. But even with a 0.2T stability, it does not get a better recoil score. And even with better stability, sometimes the random movement makes a worse recoil pattern. But in actual practice, a difference of 0.5T stability will help you get your first shot off, but once you start holding the trigger, it won't be that useful. The 30 round tac laser build gets 1 more mobility point, so it scores 1 total higher of 120. The ADS build gets 1 less mobility point and 1 less recoil point, so it gets 2 less points at 117, and my normal build gets 1 less mobility point, putting it 1 point under this Ranger build at 118. So when it comes to choosing the tac laser or the Ranger stock, that's up to you. Either you want a better ADS time with a slightly less stability, or a slightly worse ADS time but no visible laser. If you're running this with a VLK and you're comfortable with running it indoors and in close quarters, then the Ranger might actually be the better choice. But if you're using this as a long range only and you have a better sidearm, then you may actually want to run the tac laser. I thought there would be a much bigger difference between the 2 builds and that they wouldn't actually balance each other out, but I'm glad that they ended up this way because now you can pick the one that chooses your playstyle better. So in solos, I would say both of these 30 round magazine builds are pretty viable. They both have better mobility stats than the ADS build I have made, so yeah, they completely offset any penalties brought by the command of foregrip. However, you may have noticed last week that I didn't include the solo build in the chart, and like I said, that's because I don't run it anymore. And I'll show you why. You could look at my normal build and compare it to the stats of the other two builds with 30 rounds, and you could see that the other ones have much better mobility stats other than the mag cap. Its reload speeds aren't that much different when I do a reload cancel. Using a reload cancel, I can bring down my empty reload time to 2.9 seconds and my reload add time to 2.25 seconds. And sure, you can reload cancel the 30 rounds as well, but it's not as much of a difference. So my biggest issue with my build is its ADS time and its ADS strafe speed. But other than that, you can see that these builds are pretty similar. However, even the slowest mobility build I have here is still way faster than any other long-range LMG build, except for its ADS strafe speed. The main reason I switched is because 30 rounds isn't enough. My accuracy rating changes depending on whether the target is moving, standing still, and what range they're at. If my accuracy rating was 30%, with 30 shots I would get 9 shots in, which is enough to get a kill anywhere in the first damage range, under 53 meters. However, after that, where it's supposed to be used, you need 11 shots to down someone most likely. So you will not be getting that with a 30% accuracy rating. And I need to include that most players only have an accuracy rating of about 20%, meaning they may only be able to hit 6 out of the 30 shots. In my clips, you can see me get someone with 100% accuracy rating, and that's probably because they're not moving. And yeah, sometimes it's 80 to 100 meters, but again, they're not moving. It's very easy for me to hit those shots. So when I run out of ammunition in the middle of a fight, sometimes by the time I reload, the enemy's just waiting for me to pop my head out and I lose. I'm a pretty aggressive player, so I'm going to be wanting to hunt those kills, and even if it weren't for this, 30 rounds isn't enough to just continue engaging target after target after target like I want to. There's nothing wrong with this build for a slower and more methodical type of playstyle, but it's not mine, so that's why I don't use it. Which brings me back to my point. It's perfectly viable for solos, and even if you get third partied, you're still probably going to win the fight at longer ranges. Just if you get fourth partied and fifth partied, you may not end up surviving, but even with the normal Holger build, you probably wouldn't survive that anyways. But seriously, thank you so much for suggesting this build. I had a lot of fun making this video. I thought I had tried out every possible build with my favorite weapon, but no, I was gladly surprised to find another viable build. And if any of you want me to do a stat guide on a weapon or break down one of your favorite builds, or if you have any topic, question, or idea you want me to cover, let me know in the comments on here or on Instagram, and you may see it on the next Community Wednesday. But that's the video. If you enjoyed it or it's helped you in any way, please hit like. If you got any questions or comments, leave them down in the comment section down below. And if you want to make sure that you never miss another video, be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching.